Hello, everybody, and welcome to Down on the Farm, brought to you by our good friends at State Farm, only right here on opensports.com. As always, I'm your host, Sid Rosenberg. Major League Baseball's first-year player draft went down this week, and it's time to take a look at the early winners and losers with Tyler Hissey of Minor League Notebook Weekly. Tyler, how are you, pal?
Doing well, Sid. How are you?
Doing very well. Thanks for joining us today. Tyler coming to us live today from Boston, where the Red Sox, of course, just had great success against the Yankees as we get set for a Met-Yankees Subway Series up in New York. But back to the minor league stuff here. Tyler, obviously, the Nationals' grade will depend on whether or not they sign overall pick, Steven Strasburg, but they also had another top 10 pick. How do you like the selection of Stanford closer Drew Storen at number 10?
I'm not crazy about it, to be honest with you. Drew Storen, he has very good stuff. Hits at 90 to 94 miles per hour. Very good breaking pitches. But his command really is spotty at best, and there's a reason that he was a relief pitcher at Stanford and not a starter. And when you're drafting a relief pitcher in that early in the first round, there really are some concerns because relief pitchers have a limited upside. It's easier to replicate production from a relief pitcher on the open market than it is a starter. There are some scouts who feel that he could be a starter down the road. I'm a little bit hesitant about that. From a Nationals perspective, it clearly looks like a signability pick. They're going to allocate their financial resources to sign Steven Strasburg, which they have to do. And they took a kid who's going to be relatively cheap because, in all honesty, they don't have much leverage. They got this pick last year for failing to sign Aaron Crow. If they don't sign the 10th pick this year, they lose that pick for good. So they took a kid in Drew Storen who's probably going to sign quickly, relatively cheap, and he has a very good chance to end up in the Nationals bullpen at the end of the summer.
Okay, Tyler, North Carolina's Dustin Ackley was a consensus pick at number 2 to the Mariners, but at 3, San Diego went after high school outfielder Donovan Tate, who, by the way, was a pretty good football player as well. Was that the right move for San Diego?
You know what? It's a high-risk, high-reward move. Tate has tools galore, just a phenomenal athlete, but from a pure baseball standpoint, he's pretty raw. And he's going to need a while in the minor leagues to kind of refine his skills. And it's probably going to take him 4 or 5 years before he makes an impact in San Diego. The Padres farm system is very thin on athletic-type talent, so he will definitely add some athleticism, and that's one of the reasons why I think Grady Fuson and the organization was so high on him. But he's not going to come cheap. He's represented by Scott Boras, and he has significant leverage in the negotiations because he could go play football at the University of North Carolina as a 2-sport star. I'm not crazy about the pick, but it really could work out for them down the road. But he's the perfect example of a truly athlete who's not necessarily a great baseball player at this stage.
Gotcha, Ty. Now, last week, your colleague Jim Callis of Baseball America told us that the Pirates were not going to go the signability route with the 4th pick with Boston College catcher Tony Sanchez. It looks to me like that's exactly what they've done, maybe saving money for the rest of the draft and a guy like Miguel Sano. Your thoughts on what the Pirates did here?
I was very critical of this pick. I think it was a tremendous overdraft. Sanchez is an excellent defensive catcher, and he has a very high floor. Odds are he's going to be a pretty solid major league regular, a very, very safe pick. And the reason I have doubts about this pick, though, Sid, is I'm really kind of lukewarm on his bat. I don't think he's going to be an above-average hitter at the major league level. And it's a clear signability pick, but they did allocate the rest of their financial resources on the later rounds. And I think the Pirates did a really good job on day 2 in getting a lot of high-impact high school arms who really could work out for them down the road. But as far as Sanchez, I think it was a questionable pick at best.
Okay, agreed. Now, Tyler, any other picks from the first day that you consider reaches? Maybe Matt Hobgood at 5 to Baltimore or Mike Leake to Cincinnati instead of Alex White. Give me a couple of reaches there in the first round.
One of the biggest reaches in the first round for me was the Atlanta Braves selecting Mike Minor at 7. Minor's a left-handed pitcher out of Vanderbilt University, but he's more Jeremy Sowers, another lefty out of Vanderbilt, and David Price, obviously the big-time left-hander out of Vanderbilt. He doesn't have a high ceiling. He probably profiles as a number 3 starter at best, more likely a number 4 or 5. He has good command. He knows how to pitch, but the stuff isn't all that great. In that spot, I think the Braves, there are a lot of better arms available, and I was a little bit concerned with that pick. As far as Hobgood, it seems that the Orioles did want to save a little bit of money. Obviously, they went ridiculously overslot to sign Matt Wieters back in 2007, which has turned out to be a tremendous pick for them. But I feel that they didn't think that there was anyone out there like a Matt Wieters, and I think the Pirates felt this the same way because they went way over spot for Pedro Alvarez last year, that there weren't any really high-impact talent like a Wieters or an Alvarez to justify going significantly over SWAT, and they went with Hobgood, who they should sign relatively cheap.
Tyler, two teams that have both, by the way, ironically won World Series this decade, the Arizona Diamondbacks and the Los Angeles, San Diego, San Francisco, Sacramento, Angels of California. They have 5 picks apiece among the first 49 selections. Who did the better job, in your estimation, of stocking up their system?
I really like what the Arizona Diamondbacks did, and the Angels draft was kind of interesting, a little bit inconsistent. They took a lot of really kind of high upside high school kids who really going to be a long ways away, and then they took some really kind of safe bets as well. But I think the Diamondbacks did a better job than the Angels. Bobby Borchering, there's some scouts concerned about his swing, but the kid can mash. He's drawn comparisons to Chipper Jones, and I really like that pick at 16 for them. They also picked up A.J. Pollock, actually from Connecticut originally, went to Notre Dame. And I think Pollock is a safe bet to be a really solid major league player. There's some talk that he might eventually move to the middle infield, second base, but I think he'll probably stay in center field. I really like that pick. And they also got Matt Davidson in that round. Mike Belfori, the kid who was abused, the Boston College pitcher who pitched in that game he pitched 13 or 14 innings or something like that. So there are concerns that he could break down, but I thought he was a solid pick in the 3rd or 4th round. I really liked what Arizona did. It was probably one of the most important drafts in the history of that franchise, and I think they succeeded in their approach.
Good. They need help. All right, Tyler, then on the way out here, I'm going to put you right on the spot. Which team had the best draft on day one?
Obviously, it depends on whether or not teams can sign guys. With a once-in-a-generation talent like Steven Strasburg, you have to label the Nationals winners if they can sign him at a reasonable rate. Probably it's not going to be $50 million with Boris had floating out there this spring. It'll probably end up around $20-25 million. But from a pure team perspective, I really like what the Rockies did. They picked Tyler Matzik, who's going to be a tough sign. He wants to play first base and pitch at the University of Oregon. But it was a gutsy pick taking him. He is probably the best high school arm in the draft, really solid lefty. If they can sign him, they got another guy, Rex Brothers. It could be a really good draft for the Rockies down the road because they have a tough time pitching the idea of attracting free agents to come pitch at Coors Field in that ballpark. So it's crucial for them to get good pitchers in the draft, and I think they succeeded at that.
Tyler, super job, man. Thank you so much for stopping by down on the farm today. I'd like to have you back again in the near future. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Sid. Take care.
You got it, buddy. You can catch Tyler's Minor League Notebook weekly podcast, by the way, at firstinning.com. He also has a blog for the big leagues at mvn.com/around the majors. Great job by Tyler. That's going to do it for this edition of Down on the Farm, brought to you by our good friends at State Farm right here on opensports.com. I'm Sid Rosenberg. Have a great weekend. Be sure to come back Monday for Insurance Runs. We'll see you then.
The future of sports on the web is open.